So in this video we're going to take a look at volume exam past paper questions. Okay, so we're just starting off. Here is a wee extract from the formula sheet in terms of volume. So these are the equations that you will get given when it comes to volume. So you pretty much get everything there. You don't get given, for example, the volume of a cuboid, so L times B times H. That's not given there. That's something you should really be able to remember. But you're given there your volume of a cylinder, volume of a prism, volume of a cone, and volume of a sphere as well. So let's take a look at question number 1. A bottle consists of a cuboid and a cylinder. The dimensions are shown in the diagram. So we've got a cylinder on top and a cuboid in the bottom. Calculate the volume of the bottle. This particular question is calculator. Okay, you can tell that because it says paper 2 down the bottom. So when it's these types of questions, this is known as a composite shape. So it's made up of two parts. It's made up of the cylinder and it's made up of the cuboid. So I quite maybe like to label it just to make sure you're clear. We're doing it in 2 steps. We need to find the volume of each and then add them together. So let's do the volume, just do the cuboid first, right? Because that's easier. Volume of a cuboid, and it was one I just said, but it's not given in the formula, is length times breadth times height. So that'll be 10 times 8 times 4.5. Calculator, 10 times 8 times 4.5, well that's 360. Careful with your units, it was centimetres, so it'll be cubic centimetres because it's volume that we're dealing with. And then let's look at the volume of the cylinder. So a formula for that is pi r squared h. It's basically the area of a circle, which is pi r squared, and then times it by the height, so that is very much a prism. Now, what we need to do, or to get that formula, you'd be able to look in the formula sheet, so make sure you're not getting those wrong. So what we need to do is make sure that we've got the values. Here's my cylinder. I've got the height is 4. I'm just going to write that down. What I've got though is the diameter. I don't need the diameter, I need the radius. So you go from the diameter to the radius, I need to half. So that's going to be 1.5. Now I can put all this into my calculator, or rather substitute it into the formula and then put it in my calculator. So that'll be pi times 1.5 squared times the height, which is 4. You should have a calculator button. You might have to press shift in your calculator to get it, to get the pi. So shift pi times 1.5 squared, and we're timesing that by the height, which is 4. And that's getting an answer of 28.27. 4 ... Now, if it's not given in the question, just round appropriately. So for this one, I'm going to round to 2 decimal places. So 28.27, and it's cm cubed, and that's to 2 decimal places. Okay, so to get the total volume, all I'm going to do is add the two of them together. So volume 1 plus volume 2, so 360 plus 28.27, and that's just going to be 388. Could have done that in your head, 388.27. Just make sure, for a question like this, you go back and you make sure you use the correct formula. You're told in the question that it's a cylinder, go and look for the formula for a cylinder. Make sure you're getting that correct. Okay, question number 2. The storage container for a sheep, the sheep food is in the shape of a cylinder with dimensions shown. Calculate the volume of the storage container. So this is actually dead straightforward. I'm guessing this is probably part of a wider question, alright, because it's a part B. But all we're asked to do is basically work out the volume of that cylinder there. Unless we were told something about the legs in a previous question, maybe that was part of it. But in this particular question, all there is diameter of our cylinder and the height. So we're just working out volume of a cylinder again, which is pi r squared h. As I say, maybe part A had something to do with the legs, but from the question we're given, that's all we need to work out. So let's make sure I've got everything. The height was 9.7 and the radius, I'm not given that, I'm given the diameter, so I need to make sure that I half that. So 3.8, divide that by 2, make sure you're doing everything in your calculator, might as well, but that's just going to be 1.9. Now I can put all that into the formula, so pi times 1.9 squared times the height 9.7, so the volume, shift pi times 1.9 squared times 9.7, and I'm getting an answer of 110.009 ... Doesn't tell me to round to anything, I'm just going to round to two decimal places, so 110.01, 2 decimal places, and make sure you put in the units. Well, we're given meters, so it's got to be cubic meters, and that's that question done. Next one, question 3. The swimming pool is a prism with dimensions as shown in the diagram. Calculate the volume of the swimming pool, and what we've got to do is give our answers in litres. Now, this is something that makes life a little bit harder when we're going from meters cubed into litres. Alright, what you either have to remember when we're doing questions like this is that to go from litres to meters cubed, you times by 1,000, and to go the other way, so that would be that way, to go back the way, I would divide. So that's quite a common conversion that's easy to remember. Alright, so we're going to probably need that later on. So we're told that it's a prism, so the volume for a prism, and there is a couple of ways to do this, but the volume for a prism is V equals A times H. So there's a prism. I'm just going to quickly shade in the area, if you like, of the prism that we've got, alright, or the area that we're going to use, and that's this here. So you can see it, and then I'm going to multiply that by how far back it goes. So what I'm going to need to do, and hopefully you can see that just now, is I'm going to have to somehow find the area of that front face. What you might be able to see is that I have got, and that was a rubbish straight line, I'll try and do that a bit better. What you can maybe see is that I have got a triangle here, and I've got just a rectangle up the top. So I can try and work out the area for both of those and then use that to get the volume. So I'm going to say the area for the rectangle, and I'm going to work that out first. Area of a rectangle is just length times breadth. Let's try and look at the diagram and see if I can get that. Well, it's obviously 16 along, because that's at 16 there, and it's 0.5 up, so it's going to be 16 times 0.5. Now I should say this is a calculator one, because it says paper 2. So 16 times 0.5, well that's actually just going to be 8, and it would be meters squared. So that would be meters, and this is area. Now let's try and work out the area for that triangle. The area formula for a triangle is a half of base times height. Right, let's try and see if I can find and work out what the base of this would be. Well, if it's 16 along all the way, and from here to here is 4 meters, then this must be 12. It goes along here, so that's one value. Now I've got to work out, well, what's the height? Well, we know that it's 2 meters from top to bottom, but we also know that this bit in here is 0.5 meters, so it must be 1.5. So that's our two lengths, 12 and 1.5. So it's going to be a half times 12 times 1.5. Which is 9. And again, it's going to be meters squared. So now let's get the total area, and then I can use that to do the volume of the prism. So 8 plus 9, that's obviously just 17 meters squared. And then to work out the volume of the prism, I'm just going to work out how far back it goes. alright, from that. And what you can see from the diagram is it goes 8 metres back the way. So volume is area times the height, but that's really what makes it 3D, alright, when we're kind of thinking about height. That can sometimes be length. So for this one, that's our area for the front face, and we're timesing it by how far back it goes, and that's 8. So that was 17 times 8, which is 136. And this is going to be cubic meters, and we were told to get it into litres, and we've got to times by 1,000 to do that. So 136 times 1,000 is 136 litres, and that's our final answer for that one. So this is quite a tricky one. There's another couple of ways you could do it. I suppose you could almost think about the top part as being a cuboid, and then doing the prism on the bottom. But I think the fact that it says it's a prism leads me to believe anyway that you're expected to work out the area of the front face and then multiply back. But there is a couple of ways you could do that one. Question number 4, and this is going to be the last one. This is going to be a 2-part video. So Brendan also makes blue candles in the shape of a cylinder with a cone on the top. So those are our dimensions there. He buys blue wax in blocks with volume 12,000 centimetres cubed. He thinks that he can get 25 of these candles from one block. Is he correct? So what we're going to need to do is work out the volume of one candle and see how many he can get from that block. This is a paper 2 one, so it's in calculator. Right, I've got two shapes. I've got my cone and I've got my cylinder. Let's work out the volume of both. So the volume for the one, which is the cone, it's 1/3 pi r squared h. It's basically 1/3 of the formula for a cylinder. Again, you can get that in the formula sheet. Let's see what I'm given. Well, I'm told that the height of the cylinder is 12 and the height of the full candle 16, so it must mean that this bit in here is 4. Also, I'm given the diameter of 7, but I need the radius, so let's do that. We worked out the height was 4. The radius is going to be 7 divided by 2, which is 3.5. So we're doing 1/3 times pi times 3.5 squared times 4. Pop that in the calculator. 1/3 times shift pi times 3.5 squared times 4. Let's just round to 2 decimal places. That's going to be, that's going to be 51.31 to 2 decimal places. Always better to show your unrounded answer, but just for space, I'm not going to in this case. And it's centimetres cubed. And then let's work out the volume for the cylinder. That's dead easy, it's pi r squared h. We worked out what the radius was, and we're told the height is 12. So pi times 3.5 squared times 12. Get an answer. Pi times 3.5 squared times 12, and that's 461.81, and that is also 2 decimal places, and that's cubic centimetres. Okay, let's work out the total volume. So it will just be 51.31 plus 461.81. And that is 513.21, and that's cubic centimetres. Right, let's work out if this person can indeed get 25 candles from that. So what we're going to do is we're going to divide, and we're going to work out how many candles of that volume we can get from a block. The answer I'm getting when I do that is 23.3 ... So that just means we can only get 23 candles. Okay, so the answer is obviously no, because it says 25. So the answer would be no, okay, as only 23 candles. If you think about it, obviously we're not going to get part of a candle, so I'm not going to do the 0.3 part, so it's just going to be 23. Okay, you would give a little bit more detailed answer. I've just run out of space. So that's the end of part 1. For the rest of the questions, if you can watch part 2 of the video.